Hi everyone, I'm really excited to share this amazing video with you. So what this video actually covering? The first is your stock exchanges compliances prior to your board meeting. This video will also be covering the latest amendments with respect to stock exchange compliances. So you're updated with the latest filing requirements, and also we'll be covering your post board meeting compliances. So once this video is complete, you will be very confident with respect to the stock exchange compliances with respect to your board meetings. And in the end of the video, we also have an important checklist for your board meeting. So let's get started. Now this video will be specifically for whom? Those company secretaries who are either working in a listed company, especially in your equity listed company, or equity and debt listed company, or are aiming to go in such companies, because these compliances are specifically carved out for them in this video. So first is your equity listed company. For those equity listed companies, it's very simplified. You have just one regulation for your prior to board meeting intimation. That is your regulation 29 of SEBI listing obligation and disclosure requirement regulations 2015. However, if you're working or planning to go in an equity and debt listed company, in that case, regulation 29 would not be sufficient. Along with regulation 29, you will also have regulation 50 of SEBI listing obligation and disclosure requirements regulations 2015. So the next question that comes in quickly is, what are your timings, whether it be regulation 29 or regulation 50? The timings are same. It is 2 working days prior, but prior to your intimation date and meeting date. So would these be covered? The answer is a clear no, which means it is 2 working days plus 2 additional days where you have your time period to make the disclosure. Now the next question is, what triggers this disclosure? So if we go by regulation 29, there are around 9 items that require disclosure. First being is your financial results, whether it be quarterly, half yearly, annual, your buyback of securities, voluntary delisting, fundraising. However, important point to note is RBI regulated instruments are exempted. So whether it be your security receipts, your commercial papers, so those will not be disclosed. Next is your dividend, your interim dividend, final or just passing over, convertible securities or debentures with equity subscription rights, your bonuses, alteration in terms of your security rights or holder rights, payment date changes. Additionally, it points to remember is in terms of your AGM, EGM postal ballot, notice specifically for your fundraising. In that case, you need to separately disclose. A QRP carve out is there, which means in case if you're determining the price as per SEBI issue of capital and disclosure requirements regulations 2018, in that case, you need not need to give price determination intimation. In terms of a regulation 50, it's just few 5 points that come in. Your alteration in terms of non-convertible security terms or holder rights, change in your interest, dividend or redemption payment dates, financial results as we know in fundraising via NCS or any other matters which are affecting NCS holder rights. Also, any AGM, EGM or bondholder meeting notices for above matters, you need to inform stock exchange simultaneously. Okay, so the next question that comes in our mind is, what is covered generally So the first thing is the agenda item for a board meeting would always be generally, since now we are in Q4, standalone financial results. Secondly, generally in terms of companies having equity and debt list, those which are equity and debt listed, they're generally quite a group. So they also attract. The next thing is your consolidated financial results. Then dividend recommendation, as we all know in, which is a crucial part for your AGM. Here's a quick example of a Regulation 29 disclosure by TCS. So the first point which we can see in is your audited standalone financial results, your audited consolidated financial results, and a recommendation for a final dividend. So in similar manners, you may also draft your stock exchange disclosure for Regulation 29. Now, an important point that comes in is Regulation 29, Regulation 50 are of SEBI LODR regulations. However, your PIT regulations also come into play the moment we think about your financial results. For that, as you can see, the PIT regulation, which will also be read with your company's internal code, it will be said that the trading window closure needs to be made from the end of the quarter, next day from the end of the quarter, which will currently be April 1, 2026, till 48 hours after declaration of results. However, many companies which we see in the industry have this practice of making the window closure prior to even the quarter end. Now, once we are aware of what needs to be filed, the second question is how do you file it? So let's first go with the PDF disclosures. First will be your Regulation 29 intimation, which will include your board meeting date. When are you planning to have your board meeting? What will be the agenda items? For your agenda items, you will refer the regulation which we saw in. Whether if you are equity listed, it will be the 9 items plus an additional disclosure note which we checked in for AGM. In case if you're equity and debt listed, you will check your Regulation 29 items and your regulate, which is 9 items plus Regulation 50, which has 5 items. So currently, which are though seem almost similar in nature. So there will be roughly around 13 to 14 items that you need to check in. This PDF will be filed with both the exchanges, that is NSE as well as BSE. Second is your trading window closure. Now, the common practice among as seen in industry is in your Regulation 29 or Regulation 29 read with Regulation 50 disclosure. This is your prior board meeting intimation disclosure. Then we add in a small para for your trading window closure. As we saw as an extract in the previous slide. However, few companies are also giving it as separate disclosure. And a quick point to note, the filing will be in both BSE and NSE. So how do they give it as a separate disclosure? So for example, in this extract, we can see that Tata Steel Limited has closed their window from March 25th, 2026. However, till this period, they had not provided your Regulation 29 disclosure, but the disclosure for your PIT trading window closure was given prior to it, as you can see here, with respect to your financial results statements closing. Now, once we are clear with the PDF filings, the next important thing that might come in is, do I need to have any XBRL filings done as well? So you need to make an XBRL filing for your Regulation 29 matters as well as your trading window closure. However, important point to notice, from March 7, 2026, these both XBRLs have become API based filings, which means if you file it at NSE, it is automatically disseminated to BSE. If you file it through BSE Listing Center, it will automatically be intimated even and recognized even in your NIPS portal. Now, till this point, if you have not worked in an industry, you'll be like, okay, these are the core disclosures that come in. However, if you would have seen in the previous slides, we talked about financial results and dividend. However, these things might not be just statutory compliance. From a business perspective, you need to explain the street, as I may call in terms of corporate, explaining the street of your results and its outcome and what it might mean. So generally, you might see in almost majority of top companies, they have their earnings calls, conferences, just immediately after your board meetings or on the next day itself. Generally, as a majority of the industry practices that I've seen in majority of the companies, this has been a practice. So generally, as we talked in, it is after declaration of results, you have your investor engagement. Does this need a disclosure? The answer is yes, because our regulation 30 is clearly stated that schedule of analysts slash institutional investors meet needs to be disclosed, and earnings calls are included in it, so they are needed to be disclosed. Timeline: at least 2 working days in advance, excluding intimation date and meeting date. Now this language does look familiar, and a quick point is meets group meetings or conference call, whether it's physical or virtual. Also moving, see this point, the timeline point matches with the regulation 29 disclosure timeline, right? So few companies have started the practice of including this intimation in your regulation 29 intimation itself. Since both have same timelines and are for similar purposes, why not to combine this disclosure in that specific disclosure as well? So that is a point which people have started in. A important point to notice, this is just your PDF disclosure, no XBRL filings are required. Now, while you might have an amazing meeting, which I hope you do, and everyone is congratulating each other on amazing results, which I pray to God that your company has the same as well. So the moment that things goes on, an important timeline that gets triggered is you need to make the disclosure of outcome of your board meeting within 30 minutes or 3 hours as the case may be. So the moment your board meeting is done, you rush out, make the filings. The first filing that needs to come to your mind is outcome of board meeting, which will be your decision on regulation 29 agenda items specifically, plus if anything important of regulation 30, which could include is your appointment of directors or reappointment of directors or majority investments or something similar sort of things could be coming here. The PDF filings needs to be made in both BSC as well as NSC within 30 minutes. Format is a PDF. Second is your financial results. The quick results need to be given only in BSC. NSC does not require it. They have specifically told via their and communicated via the emails that they do not require this. Now, an important point that just came in my mind was, see, while regulation 30 has given you 30 minutes or 3 hours to complete your outcome of board meeting filing, however, I suggest that you try to make that filing within 30 minutes. The reason is very simple, that while in many quarters it might be standard practice in your organization to make the to end the board meeting post your trading hours, and thus you have a amazing period of 3 hours to disclose the results. However, there might be a circumstance that might crop in where your board meeting is within trading hours, and at that point of time the team might not be completely prepared without any prior experience to make the disclosure within 30 minutes. So it is suggested that even if you have 3 hours, try to complete the disclosure irrespective of whether the board meeting ends within the trading hours or after trading hours in 30 minutes itself. So that's just a humble suggestion from my side. The third intimation that needs to be made is your corporate action, whether it be dividend or anything else specific as well. This also filing needs to be made in both NSE and BSE in PDF format. Few companies just combine all these disclosures into one disclosure and might file it. Few have segregated disclosure as well. One disclosure specific for your outcome, one for your financial results, one for your corporate action. That is dividend declaration. It will separate PDF stock exchanges for disclosures for each of the events. Few companies combine, few separated. Both are legally correct. Now it depends on your meeting size and your way of approach. How do you wanna present it in the market? Now, once you're clear with your PDF filings and access your XBRL filings, the first would be your event-based filings. A quick point to note from April 25, 2026, these 4 points have XBRLs have now been transitioned to your API-based filing. The second important filing is your integrated financial results. Now, in your integrated financial results, it has an amazing thing of your regulation 23 sub-regulation 9 being attached to your integrated files. So now the moment you file your integrated files, even your regulation 29 23 sub-regulation 9 compliance gets covered there. So, and this is also the XBRL filing with effect from January 3, 2026. Now you covered in almost the majority of the parts. An important point to however note is that there are few regulation 30 announcements which as an industry experience you need to make in. First is press release or fact sheet. Now generally every company after disclosing their results also wants to highlight the key financial performances. What were their strengths? What were their weaknesses? Just core summarized version instead of someone reading through the whole financial statements. It becomes easier for them to just glance through your press release or fact sheet as the whichever term you may call in, depending on the type of content you're providing in. This is not mandatory, but majority of the companies have the practice to give in to answer to the street, right? So these things might cover your financial highlights, including like for example, what was your PAT, what was your revenue from operations, key deals, and those things. And operational metrics could include number of employees, number of locations of offices, and those all things. This needs to be a PDF filing and needs to be done on both the exchanges. Your investor presentation. So the law requires that what I mean is by regulation 30 of SEBI listing obligation disclosure requirements requires that before you go on a meet with the analyst or investors, whatever you're going to talk needs to be publicly known. So that is nothing but your investor presentation. So that needs to be made public before the start of the call. It's a PDF filing on both the exchanges. Next is your earning call disclosure. Now you had a call and it's done and wrapped up. So I think we disclosed all results, right? Now we disclosed the results, we discussed the outcome. I think now we can relax, right? The answer is still no. Once your call ends, then within 24 hours or before the next trading day, whichever is earlier, you need to upload the audio link of your earnings call on your website and share the link via stock exchange disclosure to all the investors. This filing needs to be made on both the exchanges. Second is your video recording. Majority of the companies don't do this. The requirement is within 48 hours, but very few warranty companies do it. Not a industry practice yet. Third is your transcript within 5 working days. Upload the transcript on your website as well as share the same with the stock exchange via the disclosures in PDF format. Now I think everything is done, right? Okay, then why did this newspaper come in? So as per your regulation 47, the financial results needs to be advertised in newspaper, right? One in English and one regional language newspaper. Majority companies even have 2 to 3 newspaper cuttings compared to just the two requirements. They have higher number of disclosures. So what needs to be given here is either you just give a QR code or complete set of results as per LODR master circular. In either of the formats you give the disclosure. However, there should be nothing in between of the two. Either you give complete disclosure or don't give disclosure and just provide a QR code. And this is required as per your regulation 30 schedule 3 para A item clause 12, I guess. Yeah, 12. Where it says any notices to shareholders and those details needs to be given to stock exchange as well. So once this is done, let's quickly have a revision of the checkpoints and checklist for your intimations. First is within same day, you need to provide in the sequence outcome of board meetings. Thereafter, once that is done, then you will go on results, PDF based, BC only. Then you disclose your corporate action, press release, and presentation. Same day, you will also upload the XBRL. First XBRL that I suggest you upload is your regulation 2930 disclosures. Thereafter, you disclose your integrated financial results and event based compliances thereafter. Within 24 hours of before next trading day, you need to provide the audio recording web link. Within 2 days or 48 hours, as I might call in, you need to provide a newspaper ad for financials, and within that day itself, I would suggest you provide the stock exchange intimation. Within 5 days, you provide the transcript, and important point to remember is it is 5 working days for transcript. And video is generally voluntary. I don't think majority of companies provide that even. So if you guys are really wanting amazing checklist, because I was thinking to soon share with the group of company secretaries through my newsletter, what are the parts where you need to make disclosure. So I was thinking to make a complete list of compliances required from stock exchange perspective and where do you file it and every single details with respect to the same. So if you guys are wanting it, you may scan the QR code and stay in the newsletter where you get the weekly updates on amendments as well as this amazing checklist ideas as well, which I hope to execute soon and share the same with you guys as well there. If you have any queries, you can connect with me on www.csi.com. You may join the newsletter to stay connected, and most importantly, thank you for your patient listening. Also, if you guys require the PPT's PDF version, you may download the same from the link below. Thank you.